Chain Drug Review and Mass Market Retailers Video Forum. Brought to you by the Emerson Group.
Hello everyone, I'm Jeffrey Wolt, Editor-in-Chief of Chain Drug Review and Mass Market Retailers. Welcome to our video forum. Today we're going to bring you the second half of our conversation with Sally Lyons Wyatt, Global Executive Vice President and Chief Advisor for Consumer Goods and Food Service Insights at Circana. You said that older consumers are skewing toward the supermarket. Is that a red flag for supermarkets, the fact that younger consumers are perhaps drifting away?
Well, it is, and we've been at a couple of conferences where we've shown the shifting, and we showed, especially, there's a few things happening. So in 23, that was such an interesting year. We saw from 22 into the mid part of 23, the double-digit price increases at food and beverage, month over month over month. When 22 into 23 also was when companies were saying, you know what, we need you back in the office more. So instead of 1 day a week, we need you here 2 and 3 days a week. Well, up goes mobility. Mm-hmm. And when mobility hit, consumers started to leave the house to go into the office. Some chose to make their breakfast in less than 5 minutes at the house. Some chose to pick up their breakfast or their coffee on their way to the office. What happened is there was a share shift between retail versus food service. Food service picked up 0.4 share points. Mm-hmm. Retail lost those. But within retail, there was shifting going on. And it was out of grocery into mass and club and dollar and convenience in 23. For food service, the shift was quick serve, morning and afternoon, and also non-commercial like offices where they offer lunch at a discount or maybe even a free lunch. So that's where we saw the traffic was in quick serve. And oh, by the way, even in the midst of this craziness you and I have been talking about, consumers will still opt in for that $5, $6, $7 specialty coffee. Because again, it could be that one pleasure, that one thing they were willing to splurge on versus the fact that they can't do a lot of other things. All right, now that was 23. 24, because of everything where we started, because their macroeconomic situation has been really difficult. It's been compounding and compounding. Although it's still getting a little better, consumers started to see the uptick continuing in food service. Meanwhile, slowing inflation at retail. So we've seen a shift back into more at retail. And quick serve is not growing overall. Within quick serve, there's kind of this fast casual that is doing well. But overall, that's really the only sector that's growing from a commercial standpoint. So what does it mean? Well, as those shifts are going, who's going where? It is still the younger generations that are either still trying to go out to eat and get what they want, ordering it on Uber Eats, ordering it from somewhere to get it delivered, or going to these specialty retailers or the value retailers to get what they need. So yes, it is concerning because not only does grocery have to contend with the shifts in and out of CPG retail, then they have to contend with the food service leakage, but they also have to contend with channel leakage. And I think that is daunting, but it's very doable. It's doable for them to compete against these channels if they get the right sizes with the right price and they communicate. They make the shopping experience engaging for those consumers. Back to multi-generational, I have one that will shop a specialty retailer and he has come home. And come see my freezer. And I looked in one day, I'm like, how did you even know about this product? And he said, on TikTok. And I said, how did you even know it was going to be good? Because everybody was saying it was. Well, therein lies the younger generation. Mm-hmm. And that one 30-second conversation, which is about what you get, with that 30-second conversation summed it up. That They are being very influenced by social. So grocery has to lean in and get out of their comfort zone and do things that potentially they haven't done before. There are some retailers that are winning, but it is fewer and farther between. So they have to really understand why the consumers are going to these other channels, and then do things a little differently, through occasion management, through generating excitement, through doing some things on TikTok and other social mediums like Instagram and others, to really get out there and embrace the consumer in ways that potentially they've never done before, or if they have, they up their game and they keep leaning in. They can get it back, but it is going to take work. It is not going to be that easy, because consumers have just seen them be that same store that they've been. So I think really getting out of the box and trying to differentiate themselves against other channels, and also embracing, you don't have to go to food service. Food service is 4 times the price of what we can offer you to eat or more. Come here and let us engage you in a different way. It will be a great message, and one that I think consumers will embrace.
What other emerging trends do you see that will shape not just the supermarket channel, but retail and CPG in general?
One that we're actually going to do a deeper dive later this summer, but it's around holistic well-being, and it's all about self-care. And I think, although that's not new, what we have seen is that consumers are embracing so many different types, from really assisting them with their physical, mental, and emotional well-being. They've been embracing so many different things in addition to food and beverage. It could be reading different types of books. It could be in the clothes that they're buying. It could be in the technology they're wearing. It could be from the food and beverages that they eat and drink. It could be where they go. Maybe it's to do a retreat. It could be the travel that they do. It could be about sleep. It could be about any of those, right? All of that is in kind of on trend right now, and trending, where you see a lot of products embracing the different ways consumers are trying to attack, whether it's through sleep or brain or activity or just their metabolism or whatever it might be. And I think that's going to be something that gets back into the forefront, but in a different way than it has in the past. So that's one. We have seen emerging over the last, I would call it, year, this whole do-it-yourself mentality, that it's because of the macroeconomic conditions that we've been talking about, and because it just does cost more when you go out for any service, like name one where it's not, then you try to figure out, well, do I need to go out and do that, or can I do it myself? So we've seen that uptick. Prestige beauty is one of those categories that has bucked every trend. They continually grow units and dollars without having to increase price, although they're higher priced to begin with, so probably don't need to. But yeah, they got huge growth because of social media and teaching consumers how to wear certain things, or how to apply things, or how to do things, right? And so that, plus seeing influencers influencing, right? Then when they see that, consumers are gravitated, and they have not stopped. So that is one category, but I'm not going to go out and have somebody do it for me. I'm going to do it myself. Granted, they're buying in a little higher price, but that is their choice, because it's still less expensive than going to a outsource. We see OTC healthcare increasing, and this is all about how can I stay well and prevent or manage a disease state so I don't go to the doctor, because I can't afford to go to the doctor. It is very expensive in this country to do that, even with insurance. So what can I do to stay well? So we've seen an uptick there. We've seen an uptick in auto care. And I know this sounds odd, where I went to a prestige beauty to OTC healthcare and auto care, but here's the truth. I have a car that's 10 years old. I don't want to go buy a new car. I just don't. It's inflated pricing. I don't think I'm going to get as good as a car as the one that I have now. I am doing everything I can to keep that car running. I'm also doing everything I can to keep it looking nice. And that is what we've seen, is an uptick in that auto care, like the fragrances, or the keeping the leather clean, or your dash clean, the outside, keeping the car washed and waxed. We see a lot of that, and that's a do-it-yourself. So you don't have to go in and make that major investment that is still very inflated. So you want to be able to do it yourself. So those are 3 examples. We do see it in food and beverage, and we see it more around creative ideas. I mean, there's been some innovation that's come out of do-it-yourself with foods that none of us could have predicted. And I think that's actually the unpredictability of what could become is what's fun. And what do I mean by that? Well, who would have thought that cottage cheese would become ice cream? And that is what Instagram did. And TikTok. Actually, it was more TikTok, excuse me. So what TikTok did is they had a few people get on and start talking about how they took cottage cheese and how they made it into an ice cream that is high protein, and it boomed that category. And who knew that you could take marshmallows out of being a baking item and making it be front and center a snacking option for when you want a sweet treat, and putting it in all sorts of things and covering it with things and putting in things inside of it. Who knew? Well, it was the surprise of what's come out of this do-it-yourself and this kind of consumer-led innovation. I think it's kind of fun to see. And then lastly, there is this phenomenon that we've seen called escapism that our company has put out some insights on from a group that I just adore in our company. And I think they come up with some really interesting things, but it started with the books that consumers were reading and really understanding, and books really do start to give you an idea of what's going to really become a major trend. And this escapism, whether that's gaming, whether that's a trip, whether that's reading, whether that's just listening to music, whatever the different way is, sometimes we just want to escape the moments that are difficult. And we've seen products starting to lean into that. Mm-hmm. And I think those few that I talked to you about are some that maybe aren't like earth-shattering, but I think they're going to be coming up with innovative approaches to these trends that will be really interesting. And then the last one, and I'll stop here on this particular question, but I think the mashups that are coming are going to be phenomenal. For instance, we see a lot outside with Asian and Mexican flavors coming together, and you see it with products now where you get a sweet and a savory on, in one product. That phenomenon that's going on right now with getting that I call it spicy, the sweet and the spicy together, or where you are able to put on one side, one product, like a multi-pack having a sweet and savory inside, whether it's a product where you blend or fuse flavors together. I think we're going to see a lot more of that.
Well, this is a segue into my last question, and that was about Circana's product pace setters, which you put out. I was going to ask, what do those products indicate about innovation in the market and where CPG is headed?
It's a really, really good question around what does it tell us? And there were multiple messages when you really kind of went through and looked at some of the different themes. So, for instance, breakfast at home. Breakfast at home had absolutely been stalling, especially with what I shared with you earlier around mobility. And in 23, breakfast at home lost a little bit of luster because people were racing to get out of the home. But this speed to table is huge, or speed to the door. Like maybe I should start. I coined last year with speed to table. Maybe I need to say speed to the door. But this innovation on occasions to keep consumer breakfast at home and affordable was a big one. And I think that the more that companies can do to assist consumers, because we know that a large percentage of lunch and breakfast are prepared in less than 5 minutes. So how can you assist them? That's one. This Brands Reimagined. I kind of told you about the bifurcation between the premium and the value. And that means that there's a lot of products that are right in the middle that are needing to say, don't forget about me. And please, we still add a lot of excitement and joy or nutrition or whatever it might be. So I think trying to take brands and either extend them into other categories, showing new ways of consuming them or using them, depending on if it's food or non-food. I think that just shows that from a consumer standpoint, if they have a brand they love, getting surprised and delighted to see that brand in other areas, that's a win.
Is that a marketing challenge then for these companies?
In regards to what?
Well, you say moving brands into new areas. I mean, is that up to the supplier to call attention to the fact that these can be used for more purposes than people think?
I would say it's a marketing opportunity versus a challenge, because I think what it does is it helps extend the brand. You want to make sure you kind of have a halo effect where if wherever you extend it, can you also get one extra product of your portfolio into the basket? And that's a huge opportunity. By extending the brand and being able to remind consumers about the brand, excite them that it's available there, and remind them, don't forget, you could also get the original over here. I think that that's an opportunity that most marketers would salivate over, to be able to find ways to have a halo effect across their portfolio. So I look at it that way. And then when I think about the other themes, it kind of ties into this whole wellness or well-being, because you think about added benefits. That was one of the themes. So it's new levels of energy and hydration and functional additives that really kind of blurred the lines between food and non-food. So we've seen that. Pets are part of well-being. They absolutely assist you in that emotional and mental state, and we want to take care of them. And so that is, we're willing to invest in pets like they were our children, and therefore that saw some great innovation. And then lastly, a few years ago, we actually had predicted there might be a baby boom, and we've gotten a little bit of a response from increased births. And so there's companies out there that are putting their brands against that. But I think that shows with a uptick in births, then that gives a future of having additional consumers for our industry to shop for. And I think as companies think about the life stages of consumers, and from the moment they're born until the moment they leave the earth, what are the ways that you can engage? What are the products you can have to assist them through their journey of life? And what are the things that you want to be remembered for as that consumer thinks about your brand? Mm-hmm. Back to the marketing challenge, it is a challenge and opportunity all wrapped up into one. But I think for our industry as a whole, there's a lot of positivity. But boy, oh boy, do we have to really work hard to raise all the outlets to see growth. And I think that's what's going to be the mark of this industry, is how can we kind of get grocery to be back in vogue, because it's such a large portion of volume and a beloved entity in and of itself, because it's part of just how all of us live around the world, is having grocery available and thriving. But at the same time, back to giving consumers choices and having the variety with the different channels and really kind of assisting them. You use channels and use this life cycle of options and communication across consumers in, kind of all together in a very orchestrated fashion. There is a way to continue to grow this industry and have it thrive, even when the inflationary continues to come down, hopefully, and that we get to where consumers feel like they can go out to eat more. We need to be ready for that. And I think doing the things, using these themes we've talked about today, leaning in and finding creative ways and getting out of our comfort zone in so many times, I think that's what's going to help, because younger generations, they want different messaging. They're looking for something different. So talk to them way differently than you would talk to your boomers. And I think that's what's key about a topic we didn't talk about, but we could another day, which is artificial intelligence. I think that's where AI is going to help a lot, is communicating different messages that are going to resonate with different consumers across all these themes, and be able to help different industries and different channels and operators engage with consumers along their path. And hopefully we can find more winning propositions than not.
Well, that's a great call to action. We appreciate your insights. You've given our audience a lot to think about. So, Sally, great to see you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.